Welcome to this week's edition of the Muslim Street. You can find us at www.themuslimstreet.com and across all social media platforms, with the exception of X. They have suspended the Muslim Street page on X as if we care. We really don't care. I'm perfectly honest with you. This whole suppression of activist voices who are anti-Israel and anti-genocide across social media has not only affected us, but others. For example, I think I read a post that Amanda Seales, she used to be an actor, they've suppressed her accounts across social media. As we don't complain because these are white establishments. These are white platforms. It's okay to use them, but it's not an end game for us to be able to disseminate the proper propaganda to the masses of oppressed people here and elsewhere. And the reason is that we have to do for ourselves. That's the bottom line. We have to get our own platforms. We have to support those who are already up and running to increase its visibility by our support, and move on from there. So having said that, I wanted to get that out of the way. Great program coming up today. Again, we are brought to you all the way from Accra, Africa, in Ghana, by the Lance Scurv Show. You can reach Lance at lancescurv.com and also across YouTube. Please go on the Muslim Street YouTube channel, like and share, so we can get the word out to our people. Our critical mass is really what we're looking for. But get back to the social media thing, we really need to kind of address this head on, is that voices of truth historically have been marginalized and minimalized by our oppressors. This is the way that they hold on to power, by keeping the masses of the people, the grassroots, ignorant, or creating a context that they can operate in and think they're doing something well. For example, vote for me and I'll set you free. We've been doing that, since Reconstruction. And how's that worked out for us? It hasn't worked out for us. The wealth gap is still here. It literally is sitting exactly where it was during Reconstruction, late 1860s, early 1870s. So go do the numbers yourself. And you want to play that game. This is capitalism at its best, and we're going to lose every time. We have to set up alternative systems and constructs. We've moved to that in the past, and we will continue to move to that in the future. We saw it on the African continent post colonialism. 1960, 2/3 of the African continent won their liberation and began to set up these independent constructs. They were defeated by the same forces that put us in colonialism in the first place in the latter half of the 19th century. They won that time. They won't win the next one, right? And that has to be our attitude. As we see the rise of Ibrahim Traoré, we see the rise of the Sahel, we see the rise of Africa as a Pan-African construct, calling for the unity of Africa and its diaspora. They will not be able to stop that, and they know that, right? So these are simply measures that oppressors, our current oppressors, have used and will continue to use in order to keep the message from the masses of the people. We have current scholars who cannot get scaled. People like Dr. Leonard Jeffries and his message. Go to social media and see how many people are listening to him via social media. Not many. People like Omali Yeshitela of Uhuru, who, in my estimation, has the message for the masses here and elsewhere. Go to his social media. It's not scaled. Look at my page. Others like Darol Ben Wahad, a former member of the Black Liberation Army and the Panther 21. Same thing. Dr. Jared Ball. These people, if it was on merit, they should be having hundreds of thousands and millions of followers, listening to the merit of their history, the merit of their research, and the merit of their message. But it's not. It's not based on merit. That's why they scale people, meaning that they flush out to the masses of the people those voices that they want you to listen to, because they know ain't nothing coming out of all this yipping and yapping, right? So when you see that, you just take it for what it is until we move toward building again our Art Mobley, our excuse me, our independent platform. So we're joined today, of course, by Art Mobley, one of the founding members of the National Association of Black Journalists, also a founding member and a co-convener of the Darfur 23 back in 2007 on the banks of the Nile River in Khartoum, a place that if we visited today, the hotel that we were staying in, the presidential palace, the airport that we flew in and met at, it's all gone. And we're going to have to revisit the same forces that enslaved us 400 years ago, the same forces that colonized us in the late 19th century, the same forces that upset the independent movements during the 1960s in this country amongst our people, assassinated our leaders, destroyed our organizations, are the same forces that are in play in the Sudan and its disruption, and everybody for the world to see that what happened in Gaza with that genocide. Speaking of which, the topic that we're going to kind of tackle today is that there's two congressmen. One is Senator Tommy Tuberville out of Mississippi. Randy Fine, who is a congressperson out of Central Florida, have called for the expulsion of Muslims in this country. Right? We could take this as just chatter. We could take this as, you know, they trying to scare certain people who are trying to get here in the first place. I ain't one of them. We're not one of them. Okay. We were forced here over 400 years ago in chains against our will. Large swaths, upwards to 85% of those slaves were Muslims. Don't believe that number, about 30%. We've already did the research on it, referred to the International Museum of Muslim Cultures in Jackson, Mississippi, to understand the level of research over the past 2 decades that went into defining what I just said. Kunta Kinte, our ancestor, was Muslim. All right. So I think that this whole question about expulsion, as you can see, Randy Fine, Congressman Fine, who's a rabid racist, and once and to the audience, once you understand that the same people who hate Muslims also hate Black people. I'll say it one more time. Those who hate Muslims also hate Black people. I mean, really, if you could sit at their dinner tables and just hear what they're talking about, they make no distinction. Oh, yeah, you know, Curly Jones, that's my boy, but Ahmed over here, I can't stand him. No, it don't work that way. Curly and Ahmed, same. All right. So Tommy Tuberville, Lance, if you can put his picture up. This is a former college football coach back in the 90s at the University of Mississippi. Call it Ole Miss. All right. I think Ole Miss is in the playoffs, matter of fact. The current playoffs. He was the head coach. Can you imagine the Black people who played for him? If they only understood that he despised them as soon as he went home? And this goes on a lot, especially in these white coaching ranks at these major and tier 2 colleges, major and minors. They can't stand you Black athletes. They're only going to use you to do what Tommy Tuberville, who now sits in the Senate of all places, hates you because you Black. Absolutely. So, and now he's hating Muslims. But he always hated Muslims. Because why? He always hated Black people. I mean, look where he comes from, Mississippi. Mississippi. The poorest state in the union. Anyway, where the poorest Black people sit. So Donald Trump, the Führer, the new Hitler, the one who is taking orders from the Israelis and Benjamin Netanyahu, has created this environment where anything you say against Israel, I want to put you in jail. I want to kick you out of this country. You have no reason to be criticizing that. And prior to that, under the Biden administration, this campaign of BDS, divestment, which was used as a construct and a tool to overthrow the apartheid system in South Africa in the 1980s, it was implemented by Biden and the Democrats. Literally. 38 states adopted it, including Illinois, where I'm from, which is headed by a Democratic governor who put it before the legislature that if you do not support Israel, you cannot get a government contract. 38 states under the Biden administration. And what I'm trying to get you to understand is the link between the Republicans and the Democrats is the link between white power. There are no differences between these people. They put this little game up there where they argue on TV and C-SPAN. And then afterwards, at 7 o'clock, they had dinner, ordering a baseball steak and drinking together and talking about how they're going to oppress Muslims and how they're going to oppress Black people. Don't fall for that stuff. So the Führer, Donald Trump, back in February of this year, 2025, he instituted an executive order, signed an executive order that will allow the oppressed white South Afrikaners to migrate to the United States. Can you imagine that? At the same time, the Muslims got to go. Art Moby, what do you say?
Well, I certainly understand what you're saying, and I agree with certainly those points that you made and others. We do have to move on from the oppression that's on us and really deal with the opportunities that we have to express our own liberation, both in Africa and here in the diaspora. That's what Pan-Africanism is. That's what the Muslim Street is also all about. Because, as Malik said, we are one and the same. We don't differentiate between the African masses, the Muslim street, and any other particular spiritual inclinations that you have. We would love to see the liberated lands of Kemet that come about so that we can freely move back and forth through what's called Egypt now and understand that those were Black people that established that culture. That was our culture, a 35,000 year culture that lasted for 35,000 years. And we look at the Roman Empire and the British Empire, and we understand that those were relatively short, participated in short enduring cultures and civilizations compared to Kemet, which was much more dynamic and developmental. They developed civilization, they developed science, they developed medicine as we know it today. They developed the calendar system, the mathematic systems that we have today all came out of that culture and certainly intertwined with what their belief systems were. African thought is something that came with the fact that Africans were the first people on the planet. And I'll say one more thing on this that I think is partly confused and maybe developing into an argument that would be unnecessary for us to be engaged in, particularly as Black people, that African people were the first people to spoon shape a hull so that you could have flotation on water, get away from a flat raft that would not allow you to go very far, particularly out in the ocean or any place else. African people did that, and because they did that in certain concurrence with the way the oceans flow, the winds blow, particularly off of West Africa and the Atlantic Ocean, or what used to be called the Ethiopian Sea, Africans were able to sail across the Atlantic Ocean to America long before there were crossings through the Bering Strait that caused that migratory path. This is an anthropological fact. But because there is this injection of the idea that race entered into it, people feel that they needed to change the dynamic. They don't need to go along with the science. They don't want to follow the science because they're trying to inject an artificial construct in it. So if you leave race out of it and just follow the natural scientific patterns of how Africa developed, how anthropology developed, you'll understand that African people spread out around the world, all the way to Hawaii in the Pacific. How do you think Africans got all the way to the Pacific Islands and Hawaii, but they didn't get to America? I mean, it is easier to get across the Atlantic headed in that direction via hurricanes. The winds blow that way. Everybody knows that the winds blow off. Could you mute, please, Mr. White, until we get set up?
Yeah, there's some feedback coming through.
Yeah.
Dr. White.
But the wind currents, the wind and also the ocean currents flow right into the Gulf of Mexico and right off the coast of West Africa. So you can drop something in the water off the coast of West Africa, and 3 months later, it'll wash up on the shore in Barbados or the Bahamas or Jamaica or somewhere. It just flows that way. So Africans also had the proximity to use what they knew technology to get here a long time ago. That's why you have such a Black presence among the original people of the North American and South American continent. So anyway, I digress and get back to the topics and the subjects related to what Malik was speaking of earlier. We do have to expand on our invention of the internet and turn that into something that can become a useful tool for us, regardless of what part of the world we live in. But I'm really concerned right now with Africa and being able to dominate the information flow and the means of distributing information on the African continent. And that's where we are. That's where we're concentrating, and that's where things are flowing. I'm really excited about what's going on in Africa, Malik, from a standpoint of the liberation movements there. Some great advancements have happened even this week. The AES, which is the Alliance of Sahel States, has been joined this week by Ethiopia. Chad is very close to coming in. We're also positive about what's happening in the Ivory Coast and Senegal as well. So moving very quickly. Ghana has made some very progressive discussions. And of course, we cannot forget, and we need to discuss today, what is going on in Uganda. So Museveni is having a really difficult time. The youth there are in revolt, and we are going to hear some things out of Uganda very shortly as well. So anyway, I will flip back and see that Brother White has joined us, Dr. White has joined us, and the Muslim Street is a place that you need to spread some information, bring some friends next week when you come, and sit around and share what's going on the Muslim Street.
White. Yeah, Dr. White, welcome to the Muslim Street.
Thank you.
Dr. White, of course, is running for Congress in the November 2020 2026 election. Dr. White, on topic, Representative from Florida, Mr. Fine, he has introduced, back in October, he introduced a bill called Disqualifying Dual Loyalty Act, which is geared toward banning foreign citizens from serving in Congress. This was directly aimed at Ilhan Omar, who is originates in Somalia, but it also carries with it some collateral damage from the white side of the house. Showing you that they don't care about even killing their grandmama, bro. We always say that they literally will kill their mother. Okay, so it will also affect Ted Cruz, who is an anti-black, anti-Muslim racist out of Texas, who was born in Canada. He wasn't born here, right? But so for them, the stakes are higher. If I can get Ilhan Omar, or anything that will come after her with the same track, and the collateral damage of Ted Cruz, so be it. No big deal.
Well, thank you. Somebody can thank you, brothers, for allowing me to be on. I'm sorry that I'm late. It's with a group of people at a church. In fact, I'm at a church right now in the office. But nonetheless, redefine. He is a psychopath, Zionist. He is Joseph McCarthy of the 21st century. If you don't know who Joseph McCarthy is, or can't remember who he is,
we got bad connection there, Lance, with Dr. White. Dr. White, if you're not on a Wi-Fi there, you're going to continue to have these issues. So as Dr. White gets that together, we're talking about Randy Fine, congressman out of Central Florida, who's called for the expulsion of Muslims. And he also has introduced a bill before Congress that will ban any members of or anybody running for Congress who was born outside of the United States. That includes Ilhan Omar on one extreme. The other extreme it includes Ted Cruz, who was born in Canada. Art, we talked about.
It does. I'm sorry. That is such a laughable concept, and I'll be so happy when Donald Trump and this group of politicians, are moved out of the certainly what's coming behind them is not going to be much better, because all we're going to do is go back to the same democratic nonsense that we've seen from Biden and Obama. But it definitely will be at least an adjustment as they repulse from this, going back to McCarthyism. Funny that Dr. White should bring up, McCarthyism and what that meant. But we really thought that the McCarthy era was dead and gone. But we see all the things, they linger right under the surface. Dr. White is back. I see him, but hopefully we can hear him.
Oh, okay, let me go someplace else. Carry on the conversation to
just put yourself on mute and then try to rejoin when you get on Wi-Fi. Dr. White brought up Joseph McCarthy out of the 1950s, he said, Dr. White, can you put yourself on mute, please? So Dr. White brought up Joseph McCarthy out of the 1950s.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Do you hear me now?
All right. You stop and stand still.
Okay. I had to get to a different place. As I was saying that Randy Fine is a psychopath Zionist pig who is illustrating elements of McCarthyism times two. If you don't remember, McCarthyism during the 1950s was a case whereby he created such a hysteria as the Republican congressman out of Wisconsin that stated that communists were taking over the State Department, controlled both houses, controlled the president, which caused a number of people to be blacklisted, to lose their jobs, lose their homes, lose their lives even. That even led up to the execution of the Rosenbergs. So what you have with redefine, he is playing on this. And sadly, as the two of you stated, we do not have enough um, Congress people, senators, even people at the local level who have the backbone, the integrity, and the strength to say, Randy, you are a fool, you are a liar, and you're creating an atmosphere that can cause the deaths of not hundreds and thousands, but millions of people with this foolishness. I don't think it's just a case of the Republicans. It's a case of the general atmosphere. Because remember, in this country, throughout every era, when they think other people are coming in, they create a hysteria that these people are taking control. In the 19th century, it was the Catholics, and that led up right up into the election of Senator Kennedy as the president of the United States in 1960. Then, during the 1970s, we had the element of the Iranians, you know, with the whole issue of what took place in Iran. Then in the 1980s and 1990s, we have issues of Central Americans, you know, Panamanians and so forth. Then we also have issues of Africans. So we have this crazy hysteria, but we have to have people who have the integrity, the backbone to fight back. If we can't do that, then we're no good, we're no better, and we're giving Randy Fine a carte blanche to say and do everything. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be at a convention that he's going to be at, and I look forward to meeting that fella. All right, so we can have it out right there and then. I'm not going to run from him. I'm going to run to him because someone has to call him out because he's hiding behind this the skirt of President Trump and the skirt of the larger Republican Party, members of the Republican Party, who have a hatred and a fear factor that's controlling them.
Yeah, so the points that Dr. White made, of course, Dr. White is the author of Blacklisted, a book that everybody should pick up. The price for speaking the truth, and he's also a candidate for Congress out of Orlando on the 2026 ticket. Is there a primary that you're going to be running in prior to that?
Yes, there is a primary, and the primary is going to be in March. That's when the primary.
Yeah, so just a few months.
No, I'm sorry. The primary is in June. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
So just about 6 months away. Art, one of the things that we've talked about, ad nauseum, is to try to get our audience to understand the connection between white power and the systems and institutions and political institutions that white power set up and have and white power set up, have living in order to maintain their power at the top. Right. And I'll ask you to jump in on this because I think it's very important to do that because we have to set up the chessboard so that people can understand what the contradictions are. All right. That these people are on the same team. So, and I'll set this up. I gave a speech years ago to high school students, and I came in, and the first thing I said after my introduction was, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, and then I have them fill in the rest. They roared back, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And then I said, all the king's horses and all the king's men, and then they said, put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And I gave a 1 hour and a half lecture on why that was a lie. All right. I said, who was the first question? Because we got to ask the right questions, Art. I said, who was Humpty Dumpty that the entire state, all the king's horses, the entire state sent all of the resources to him to put him back together again? He was white power. And he didn't fall off that wall. He was pushed.
Yeah. But it's not going to be pushed. it's not going to be put back together this time. I mean, right now, American hegemony is dead.
Mm.
All right, and this whole element they're trying to hold on, we call white supremacy. That's going by the wayside too.
Yeah.
The only thing that can keep them together is a myth that you have a number of African Americans or Negro Americans who find that there is a stake within that structure, and they will try to be the Band-Aid. And that would only be for a small time, a short time. But that whole hegemony thing is gone. Humpty Dumpty would never be placed back together again. I mean, for example, look what's taking place right now in Venezuela. All right, they thought that they could scare Venezuela. Well, in the past few days, Venezuela received supersonic missiles that's capable of nuclear warheads, along with Colombia, and they have stated to the American community that your time of bullying us is over. These missiles can be in Miami within 5 minutes. All right, this is the first time that America hegemony has ever had a real challenge like this, whereby they have people on their front door that can hit them through their front door as they can hit other people. Also, it's also worth mentioning that the American dollar is dead. It's dead in the Caribbean. It's dead in Latin America. And so therefore, Venezuela, Brazil, Colombia, Uruguay, they traded among themselves. So while we're talking about Randy and all these other people are talking about, well, they're going to be bullied, they're going to do this to the Muslims, they're going to do this to blacks, they're going to do this to Latin America, guess what? It's not happening. All right? And that's why we have to have new leadership, because the leadership they have now knows nothing about geopolitics. The leadership that we have now are too afraid to push back against Biden, Trump, or anyone else that's in the Oval Office that can be that's doing terrible things, and they don't have enough integrity to tell the American people the truth that American hegemony is over. All right, this element of one country ruling the world is not happening any longer, and that the United States better get in line with other countries, or this country will be isolated. This country will be sanctioned. This country will be exposed to what it is.
So, Doctor, Art, out of the spirit of Gil Scott Heron and the revolution that will not be televised, Dr. White is saying there will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process, and there will be no slow motion or still lives of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit.
You need to update those names, brother.
That he has been saving that red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit. He's been saving for just the proper occasion, and that is to serve as a buffer in between Black power and white supremacy.
Yeah, well, Gil Scott certainly was a man that was way ahead of his time. Loved that.
Absolutely,
love that brother. But, you know, capitalism does something to people that nothing else that we can discuss at this point does, and that's buy off those folks, or attempt to buy off those folks who are vulnerable and are amenable to compromise. And so I like what Dr. White is saying when he says people who are running for office, or those who are considering, you know, trying to move themselves into leadership postures and positions, whether they're here or whether they're on the continent, they need to be people who are really insulated from the apex of the world and those financial institutions that are going to come and drop that bag of money on their desk and say, hey, you know, would you do it for this? And people are weak. People are definitely vulnerable to receiving money. So we can't leave that big picture out of the scenario here. And it's something that they have used over and over again. That's what white supremacy uses, even to get Black people to become white supremacists. You know, you can buy some Black white supremacists by just putting enough money in front of them. That's a challenge, and it will continue to be a problem. But we know people selling out our community is nothing new, and it is something that is not going to go away for a while, even though there are alternative financial systems and structures developing around the world. We're still going to have that problem because it is certainly a tease to a lot of people to be made rich or wealthy and then go somewhere and sit down, but leave in their wake death, destruction, and certainly usually at the expense of African, Black people, Muslim people, people around the world who are poor. So we have to be those vanguard people who stand in that gap, call those things out when we see them, and make sure that those people do not get any further than they need to. There's nothing worse than someone who sells out the people and the revolution or the liberation movement for 27 silver coins or something, So anyway, this is the Muslim street. This is how we roll. This is what we talk about here.
And we have to make them, like Art stated, we have to make those people feel uncomfortable. Even like he stated on the continent. Right now with Ghana, we have that the United States has basically taken over a hangar at the airport. All right, they're pushing American militarism within Ghana, building another, not building, but expanding the military base in Ghana. The young people in Ghana have to make the government that's allowing this, as well as the Americans, feel uncomfortable. Don't give them a welcome hand. That's how you drive them out.
Well,
all right. And if you don't make them feel uncomfortable, you're basically telling them you're welcome and it's okay. Then you can't cry about the fact what happens to your country or to your environment years later. You got to make them feel uncomfortable now.
Well, certainly a lot of them do feel very uncomfortable, and they're definitely feeling the heat. Tinubu in Nigeria certainly got a taste of that when he tried to sneak in and assist with the effort to not only crush the coup that he felt was going on in Benin, and the world was stating was going on and happening in Benin, but he also tried to possibly fly some kind of reconnaissance mission over Burkina Faso, and they got busted and grounded, and those soldiers had to be detained and debriefed by another government. And Nigeria, because it has such a large population, has enforced a will over the entire West Africa region, ECOWAS and all, as being the guardian of British imperialism in that area. They wanted to be that guard and that vanguard for them, and that really got exposed, and that has really fired up a lot of the things that are happening right now. And there's
you're right, because the president of Nigeria is a disgrace. I mean, he basically was doing the bidding of not only the British but the French, who has a vested interest in Benin and in the destruction of Burkina Faso and others. So he utilized them. In fact, they utilized the satellite system of the French. That was disgusting. You see, and we have to call it out, but also put pressure. The Nigerians here, they're always sending money home. They need to stop it for a minute. Make them feel the pain, because if you do not make them feel the pain, then they will continue to do what they do. And the time is out for that. There's no more talking. There's no more element where this is cultural fight. This is not a cultural fight. This is a political fight at the global level. And if we don't deal with it, it's going to be a hot fight, a military fight.
Well, it's certainly going to devolve into that, and maybe I should say evolve, because really you can't have change without having some kind of revolution, and the revolution is certainly continuing. We talked about Tinubu last couple of weeks, and certainly his picture is there. But again, these elderly brothers who are in Africa in leadership positions, they're politicians, they're trying to hold on to the colonial structures that are there. We have the same thing going on in the Caribbean, and we see it everywhere. Again, it gets back to people who want that money. It's about getting a little cash and making things great for themselves at the expense of their own people. Museveni, who operates and has been president in Uganda for the last 30 some odd years, ever since I can almost remember. We remember when Idi Amin was in power, and then for a brief period, Obote was in power in Uganda, who would have been a much better, more practical leader, but he was essentially usurped and overthrown by Museveni, and Museveni has ruled in Uganda ever since. As I said, he is also feeling the heat of the movement. Bobby Wine is an opposition candidate. In the last election, he threw Bobby Wine in jail for months. A long period of time. Bobby Wine was locked up. Bobby Wine is out and back in the street now and is campaigning. And the heat and the friction in Uganda is certainly being felt. So we've got a lot of things happening, and things are moving very quickly. I was hoping that we had an opportunity to talk with some of the individuals on the ground. We've got many reporters, and we got activists who are on the ground throughout this region, and we will be bringing those stories and those people and that information to you right here on the Muslim Street as well. So
just take a break to pay some bills. Sponsor ArabicSofa.com. Lance, if you can put some pictures up there, that'd be great. They have a special going, and that special is if you mention the Muslim Street, then you will get a $50 discount, free shipping from authentic furniture shipped in 3 to 4 days directly from Istanbul, Turkey. It's incoming from China or Taiwan. It's going to fall apart on you in a week or two. This is literally top shelf stuff. If you want to deck one of your rooms out, Muslim style, reach out to them, mention the Muslim Street, 50% discount. You're going to get a free prayer rug with that. In addition to that, free shipping. I just got mine delivered a few weeks ago. Everyone who came over and said, "Whoa, curb appeal." You're right, curb appeal. You gotta see this room, Art.
Curb appeal in the living room.
This is where we take care. It's one of them rooms where we just take care of the business in, bro. I mean, it's that decked out with beautiful furniture, Muslim style that you find in Muslim countries, particularly in Morocco, Turkey, places like that, in Egypt. Just some beautiful ways to kind of enhance that beautiful house of yours or your apartment. In addition to that, sit comfortably and entertain your guests. So you can find them at ArabicSofa.com. Again, mention the Muslim Street. Free prayer rug, free shipping directly from Turkey. Usually takes about 3 or 4 days. You don't have to worry. This is not Temu, where you may not get it ever, and then it's it's garbage, right? This is quality stuff. It looks and feels exactly what you see up on the screen. I want to thank our brother Khalid over at the at Arabic Sofa, who is invited to Muslim Street over to Istanbul. He will be our host anytime that we hit the ground over there in Turkey. Now, one of the things that before we go to the other side, The audience may wonder why. You hear it from Dr. White, you hear it from Art Mobley, and you sure have heard it from me, is why are we so hard on sellouts and Uncle Toms? I just want to bring this down to so the common people can understand this. On a slave plantation in the South in the 1800s, 1700s, pick your 100 years. You got 300 of them to pick. There will be 100 slaves on a plantation. And then up in the big house, you got Master John and Miss Ann, right? Maybe you had a white overseer sometimes. And then you had a black overseer sometimes. And Dr. White, please chime in on this. But they were able to control through fear those 100 captive Africans on that plantation. Anytime there was a mumbling of any kind of revolt or any kind of, oh, we're going to break away at sunset, they were able to squash that usually by gathering information from the Uncle Tom. That's what happened to Gabriel Prosser. That's what happened to Denmark Vesey. That's what happened to Nat Turner. Information given by Uncle Toms to overthrow those revolutions. And then, of course, the intersection of the black overseer or the Uncle Tom on those plantations, identifying with the slave master and the big house. They literally said, and Malcolm said this in speeches, that when the master got sick, the house slave or the Uncle Tom would say, "Oh, master, we sick." And while the field slave would be praying that his fever went up. Okay. When the house was burning down, the house slave would be saying, the Uncle Tom would be saying, "Oh, our house is burning down, master. Let's go and run and get some water." And the field slave would be praying for a big wind to come by to burn it down to the ground. All right. So this intersection of the Uncle Tom on those plantations, used as a tool to continually oppress the masses of the African people who were yearning to be free, was always aided and abetted by this Uncle Tom on that plantation. But you can't tell me that you can get 100 brothers on a plantation that won't take that house by sunset, anytime, anywhere. But why didn't they? Right. So this is a real good conversation that we should be having, but you have to export that to your politics to understand why we allow this oppression. Art.
Well, 7% of the world is in the category of being Anglo, white. They are definitely a small fraction of the world's population, and certainly don't want to be misunderstood. Our human family is capable of doing some amazing things that are inclusive of everybody. But if you're thinking from the perspective of white supremacy, that's a problem. And you're just in that category. And everything that you got coming. So get your act right, and you might get to hang around. But the rest of the world is not going to continue to tolerate just the oppression that exists right now in Sudan. I mean, right now in Sudan, that mindset of white supremacy, of Zionism, is financing the destruction, the literal just tearing down of the fabric of the human body in Sudan. I mean, 500,000 children have been killed in Sudan in just the past several months. We look at what's going on in Gaza and we say, "Oh man, it is horrible what we're seeing and what we're witnessing in Gaza over the last 2 years." And when a worse tragedy is occurring in the Sudan right now and in the Congo, we don't even hear about it because it's as though the people don't even exist. So we've got to get beyond this racism, this supremacy, this omnipotence that people feel because they follow a particular religious fantasy called Zionism from somewhere. That kind of thinking is passe. It has to be passe. And our young people are not going to tolerate it. Our young lions are not going to tolerate it. I was concerned for a while that they would miss the picture, but social media is part of the reason this education is so precipitous and so widespread, and there's no stopping it. The internet is not going anywhere. It is an international phenomena, and it is an international construct that allows information to come from any and everywhere, even if you try to suppress it here. So I know, Malik, you're concerned about, the banning that goes on in this country of media. That's why they rush to buy TikTok, and they say, well, you can't own TikTok unless you are an American group, and of course they wanted to define what that American group was. What there was then, unless you're into white supremacy, you're not going to be able to own anything in this country.
Yeah.
And you're certainly not going to be able to disseminate information if you're not in that club and in that gang. That's why we have less Black media today than we had 30 years ago, Black-owned media. And just by the way, just a sidebar, I'm also one of the founding members of the National Black Media Coalition, which is one of those organizations that was responsible for the proliferation and ownership of licenses in this country while they still had a structure at the Federal Communications Commission to allow for there to be ownership across diverse sectors. They completely undermined and wiped out the FCC and its power base and that system because of the National Black Media Coalition. We put so much heat under so many different people and sued people and really challenged that system so thoroughly that they changed the rules, they changed the game, they wiped it out and said, hey, we ain't even gonna allow this to even that kind of democracy to even happen in the country anymore. So anyway, brother.
Yeah. So Art, the last few minutes that we have as we close out the show,
Mm-hmm.
let me bring something up. Going back to these agents against Black liberation and why we're so hard on them, why they need to be exposed. But then there's this other piece that I want you to address, and that is all of our people, be they militant, be they conscious, or Uncle Toms or ignorant. They are our people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Kwame Ture said this. He said that the duty of the conscious is to raise the level of awareness of the unconscious. That's literally the duty that we have. In respect to someone, let's say Candace Owens, whose mind was liberated on the Gaza interest, where she, prior to her mind being liberated on that, and we know the process that happened, that was Dr. Norman Finkelstein, who she interviewed and turned her upside down. She has a deep hatred of her own people. As such, she worked at a white supremacist shop called PragerU, who financed her to do a documentary to put George Floyd into a negative light. She then goes on to say, repeatedly, that this whole idea of Black people in the latter part of the 19th century and early part of the 20th century being lynched was just overblown. And she's talked about the numbers, not knowing that this is a terrorist group that was doing that, right? And all white people who were involved in that had conscription in white power, right? So she literally, put that energy out. So in the context of what Dr. Conrad World said of National Black United Front, that free your mind and your ass will follow, talking to Black people. And then, of course, what I mentioned about Kwame Ture putting the duty on us to go get the Candace Owens and then turn them upside down. How do we balance this act?
Well, we certainly can balance it again by acknowledging that everybody has their own individual path to growth and development, whether it's Jasmine Crockett or it's Candace Owens or it's anybody else for that matter, and we have to give them certainly some space and time to grow. I don't follow Candace Owens, so I don't know much about what her conversation is, and I barely follow what people say in the Black Caucus and understand what they're talking about, because it's so foreign. It is so beneath us to have to deal with that kind of elementary nonsense and tactics, and it's beyond Thomism. It's actually avoidance of issues that would liberate their own people. They stay away from those issues, and they're not even a factor because of their just divorcing themselves from the right kinds of arguments. So those of us who do understand what those arguments are have to move on. We have to move on to the higher ground, and as you say, help people with consciousness raising, and help the conscious raisers with the kinds of information that they need. We have great speakers, great liberators who I do come in contact with, who are out there, but they don't have platforms except for those things that we have to stumble upon because we don't know how to aggregate. We've lost our ability to aggregate voices to certain places where people can go and get that information easier. But that's only going to be a short-lived situation. So we're working on rectifying that right now.
All right, good points. As we get to close out the program for today, we want to thank Scurv Show. You can find him at lancescurv.com, across all social media, including YouTube, for producing us out of Rob Ganner. Malika's Michael White, and for Art Mobley, this is The Muslim Street. Find us again at www.themuslimstreet.com. Look for us in the coming weeks for some other hard-hitting shows. We will blatantly tell you.
We'll be back next Sunday.
Yeah, next Sunday. Yeah, absolutely. Next Sunday, same time. As Batman used to say when I was growing up, same time, same station. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Hallelujah.